One, thanks, Tim. Thanks everyone for dialing in. We're excited to run you through the business. A very brief presentation today, and then should only go for 10 minutes or so, and then plenty of time for questions at the end if you'd like to ask them. I'll move through the slides relatively quickly, Tim, so keep your hand on the pulse. But for those who don't know Hydrolight, the secret to Hydrolight is we're a low sugar, high electrolyte mix, and that mix, when it hits your body, it's able to be absorbed immediately into your bloodstream, and it's as effective as an IV drip for replenishing fluids. That's why it's universally adopted by the medical community. That's why doctors recommend it when you've got gastro. And the company began really as primarily treating clinical cases of hydration, and that's the cold and flu, the gastro, the fever, heat stroke. But it was embraced by consumers in particularly around what we call lifestyle hydration. So that's your travel, your exercise, and hangovers. It's Australia's most popular hangover cure, and it's a massive driver of the category here in the States where we operate the business. So on to the next slide, please. So quick summary of our board and advisory. The backbone of the business in terms of ownership is held by the founder, Dan O'Brien. It was founded Hydrolight in Australia back in 2001. The second biggest shareholder is Radek Salih, who's the old CEO of Swiss Wellness, and a couple of board members remain from the Swiss team. So a lot of experience in kind of multinational health and wellness expansion. And then we have a bunch of local Americans, Margaret, Vanessa, and Brandon, who are based here in California, helping us out as well. Next slide, please. So just to be sure you understand the structure of Hydrolyte International, we're technically the rights holder to the business in all markets outside of Australia, the Middle East, and Africa. What that really means is Hydralyte North America. That's where we're based. We're here in San Diego in California on the west coast of the US. We operate the business primarily in Canada and in the States. Our revenue is almost split 50-50 between the two markets. Importantly, we have the rights to the UK and China, where we have distributors getting the business going there. So we have kind of unlimited upside in terms of global opportunity, but we focus the business on the US and Canada. Next slide, please. So this is the kind of why us, why buy our stock, why be a partner in our business. We're well and truly out of the startup phase. We're an established business. We've had enormous gross margin improvements since we began, and we're nudging 60% gross margin now. Sales are, significantly up. We're sort of in the 80% growth mark on year through to June 30. We have a number of product innovations that have hit the market and are now our best sellers, with plenty more. And our manufacturing team and strategy and all of that stuff is bedded down. What's very different about the business here in America is we're focused primarily on e-commerce. A third of American e-commerce a third of American health and wellness goes online. And so we really focus as Amazon as our primary selling customer. But interestingly, in Canada, the business has been operating there for almost 10 years, and we have a number 2 position there nationally. We're in every single pharmacy in the country. In Canada, there's 30% more Canadians than there are Australians. We currently hold a 28% share as of the middle of last year, and are a fast-growing number 2 brand to Pedialyte, which is both the number 1 in the US and Canada. Pedialyte is a kid's version of Hydrolyte, is the best way to think about it. So Canada is a wonderful kind of backbone of the business, and US is kind of the lotto ticket in terms of the way we see things. So next slide, please. So this is what's underpinned the growth of the business. In 2018, when I began, we were doing about $500 a day on Amazon. We turned that around with a new product strategy, and we now do upwards of $10,000 a day. And over Prime Day, which was in July, we were nudging $20,000 a day. So our subscriptions have grown from 0 to 2,600. We have about 18% of our business subscribed, which shows the customers like our product and they stick with it. It means it's delivered to their door every 30 or 60 days. We've expanded our door count in America in North America, I should say, from 12 to 20,000. Next slide, please. So these are some of the financial results. This is only our 4C, so that 56% growth is just on the prior corresponding quarter from last year. It's an 18% increase on the last quarter we just had. And it was underpinned by $950,000 of revenue in June, which was a record month for us, as we were leading into what's traditionally a seasonally stronger period. Normally our best months are July, August, September. It's when the North American summer is on. Most of the hydration occasions that people need Hydrolight for occur in the summer months when it's warm outside. Our gross margin, you can see, increased to 57%. And most excitingly, we started our partnership with Shay Mitchell. Shay Mitchell is an online phenomenon. She has 34 million followers on Instagram. To give you a sense of that scale, that's about 34 times bigger than the most famous influencer in Australia. It's 3.5 times the size of Tom Brady. It's 7 times the amount of people who tune into the AFL Grand Final every year. So she is a mouthpiece to North America. She was the 3rd most followed pregnant woman on the planet on Instagram this year after Britney Spears and Rihanna. So we started our partnership with her, which includes a collab SKU. So next slide, please. I'm going to run through these pretty quick. This is just a continued illustration of our growth underpinned by e-commerce in the bottom right. Next slide, please. This is our year-on-year trend. You can see we very seasonally peak in the middle of the year, and that 49,000 odd in revenue in June is setting us up nicely for the North American summer. We launched our new product, Liver Detox, in the bottom right-hand corner, and already sold out in its first 30 days. Next slide, please. This is largely a summary of the gross margin. I think I've really talked to this. The table at the top is the important one. You'll see gross margin increasing from 46 up to 57%, and we anticipate that trend, while not as fast, will continue to creep up as we move manufacturing into the more manufacturing into the US market. Next slide, please. So this is our Amazon year on year. You can see nudging our way to 275,000 of sales. This is only in June. So we're still now charging our way into August, and the trajectory of the business has accelerated since then. Next slide, please. This is our bricks and mortar summary of Canada. You can see in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th column, last 52% difference. The marker down the bottom is the key one. That's our retail sales growth. So that's customers buying us off the shelf. We've grown 80% through to June 26. Next slide. This is kind of an exciting slide to show you the opportunity in just Canada. On the far left is a pie chart that illustrates the entire category. There's us with our 28% share. We're almost in 100% growth, as you can see. And if you grew that $15 million pie to 30 million, it would still be, the US market would still be 50 times as big. And so we think the Canadian market is always about 1/10 of the US because of population size, roughly 35 million Canadians, roughly 350 million Americans. And so we think Canada can easily be a $150 million category in a very short space of time. And we have a serious tailwind behind us, which is what's driving so much of that growth. Next slide, please. We just booted off China as our distributor. The sales quickly raced to almost $1,000 a day. We sold out of almost everything we put over there for our initial order. So we're getting that going again. And that's a very, very exciting kind of midterm opportunity that's just began. Next slide. We're going to move through these ones very quickly. This is Shay Mitchell. We can go to the next slide. We had our first in-person event with her. That's her looking $1 million in front of the Hydrolight. Next slide. We had over 50 influencers attend for free. And so to get the value of this many influencers posting about Hydrolight alone is about 150 grand's worth. And they all show up for free to spend a day with Shay Mitchell and take photos with her. Next slide. So that excludes the value that we get from Shay. Shay obviously posting on her own, but we almost, stopped every mum's Instagram feed for a day in Toronto in the peak summertime in July. Next slide. You can skip to the next one, actually, just so we leave ourselves a little bit of time. So product launches either in market or about to come up. This is a beverage category after all. So more flavors, more formats has traditionally always meant more sales for us. We have very little cannibalization when we launch new products. This liver support one is primarily aimed at hangovers. Ashwagandha is a relaxant anti-stress one, and the other ones are largely just different flavors and different pack sizes, and you can see a format innovation with those tubs down the bottom. So just pump through a couple more slides. I know I've only got a couple more minutes. We'll skip through this. This is just more about our movement to tubs. This is largely how it's all rolling out, illustrating that almost all of these products that I just showed you are coming out now. If they haven't launched already, they're launching in August, in September, giving us plenty of runway to get revenue from all these new launches before the end of the year. So next slide. We can pause here. It'd be the right time for questions, really. So, in a nutshell, we're an established business underpinned by electric e-commerce growth, and we have a dominant share position in Canada, which is 30% bigger than Australia, and the Aussie business sold for $80 million on its own.
That was my first question, Oliver. What was the valuation and kind of the revenue on the Australian business?
Yeah.
Given, what do you say, 80 million, and you're on a market
80
cap
80 million and doing about 30, and that's in Aussie dollars. So to give a sense, we did $1 million US dollars in June. So we're, run rating around the $12 million mark in US dollars. So what's that? 16 million Aussie. So we're half as big as the Aussie business right now, and that's sold for 80.
And just from a strategy, say China, for example, obviously the influences are very powerful in the US and in the States. So for China, there's Alibaba, and there's obviously some Chinese influences with probably the same sort of market. Is that the strategy moving forward into different markets?
Our business is really focused on US and Canada for now. There's, it's a big pie, US and Canada. And if we take our eyes off the prize there, it's easy to, get run down by someone else. So China's a bit of a side bet. Our team have a lot of experience in China. I lived in China during the Swiss wellness days, and we have a wonderful distributor there. So it's a kind of low distraction model where we use exactly the same stock that we sell in America, and we'll just slowly build that up. In terms of sales channels, it is all Alibaba. So it's on Tmall Global, which is the international consumer part of Alibaba. And that's where we sell. And so far it's been great. We get to $1,000 a day in the first 40 days of selling there. So we'll just let that build and build and build. And, we're pretty optimistic that could be something exciting much faster than we anticipated. So you never know. We might be back in a year's time talking more about China.
And what about the brand? I mean, Hydrolight, I gave to my kids when they're sick. I know of people, not myself, of course, who have it before a big night or after a big night. So what's the actual brand stand for in terms of marketing?
Yeah, look, that is, we sort of, that's exactly the way to think about the brand. It's a rapid rehydration drink, and you primarily get dehydrated from 4 things: when you're sick, when you're exercising, when you travel, and when you're either drinking alcohol, about to drink alcohol, or drunk too much alcohol. And those 4 things are when you really feel the effects of dehydration, and that instant electrolyte and fluid replenishment is what makes you feel better so much quicker. And so we market to the family consumption of those brands, of those occasions. So we focus on young families who are looking after kids, who are exercising, who are doing all those things in their day-to-day life, as well as, maybe having too many wines on a Thursday night and need to get ready to go on a Friday.
Looks like you got one of your little clients in the background.
I'm having a bit of a BBC World moment here.
and that influence market, obviously Shane Mitchell, I think you issued an equity is the strategy to kind of crank it up, bring on more influencers and play the same sort of marketing strategy?
It's definitely a big bet. She's a proven entrepreneur, though. Her business, she has a luggage business called Base. She's built that to $50 million over the last few years off her own Instagram. So we have a collaborative SKU, like a co-branded SKU. So it'll actually be a Shay Mitchell Hydrolight special flavor that launches at the back half of the year. So we'll really anchor the partnership around selling that product. She gets a commission on that product. She's obviously a partner, like an investor in the business. So she's rewarded for the overall company's success, but we'll really push it around that product. And they've been an incredible team of driving our marketing strategy, mapping out how we're going to talk to our consumer base, working out the cadence of the kind of ways we talk about Hydrolight. So it's been a wonderful start, and it's a couple of years. The partnerships are only just getting going.
And you spoke about a competitor in the childhood space. Is there anyone kind of in this adult space as a competitor?
Yeah, look, Pedialyte is the market leader, dominant market leader in both the US and Canada. The biggest player in lifestyle is a brand called Liquid IV. Liquid IV largely focus on young adults and really just go after that exercise, kind of healthy lifestyle space. That they quickly got to $100 million and were purchased by Unilever for $400 million in the last, like, say, 2 years ago. So they're the kind of dominant online brand, and we sit positioned largely between the two. So if it gives you a sense of upside, that's very quickly what you can become in America, is that kind of scale.
And just finally, Oliver, what's the relationship with the Australian brand? There's no relationship anymore, and in terms of where the product's manufactured.
Technically a licensing deal. Yeah, it's technically a license deal. That they just really bought the rights to Australia and New Zealand, and then they subsequently purchased the rights to Southeast Asia and Middle East and Africa. So they licensed the brand to us, and we operate our two kind of different companies separately. So we share a brand, we share an IP, we share somewhat of a go-to-market strategy, but manufacturing and management is all entirely split. So it's largely a kind of handshake agreement in the way it works. We have a very friendly and consistent dialogue with the team in Australia, but it's largely just swapping secrets, and then we go about our own thing.
Great, Oliver. That's all we have time for. Good story. Love to follow it up later in the year.
No worries. Pleasure. Thank you for tuning in, and thanks for having me. Talk to you later.